And I'm back. Again, welcome to my online class, Mrs. C Math 2 class. So our lesson for today is complex number. And I will put the copy of the PDF packet, which these examples can be found on pages 11 to 12. All right, to start with, what is a complex number? So complex number is any number in form of a plus bi. So where A and B are real numbers like a regular number, 1 to 10, or any number. And I is imaginary. I meaning there will be some content which is a negative on that specific value. Now, what is an imaginary number? A number that is expressed in terms of the square, in terms of square root of a negative number. As what I said, there's a value for imaginary I. So I represents square root of -1. So if you encounter a number or a negative number in a radicand, it means that it can be disinfected by I, because I believe that an imaginary number is also like a sanitizer or a Lysol that disinfect germs. But this time, we are disinfecting negative number under the radical sign, because if you will just press it in a calculator, a negative radicand cannot be extracted and it will give you error. If you will want to try that, go ahead. All right, to start with, let's just give the value of I first. So as what I said, I represents square root of -1. So that's what we are writing for. So square root of -1. Now, if we double it, what about if we double I? So it means that there are two square root of -1. So what's square root of -1 times square root of -1? This will be cancelled and that will be equal to -1. So we now know that an I squared is equal to -1. So these are the only things that we need to remember. All right, let's do cube. So now we know that squared is all equal to -1. So we're gonna split this by I squared times I1. I1, 1, rule of exponent, 1 times, I squared times I1 would be I cubed, since they have the same base. So this will be I squared is already -1, so just multiply it to I, so the answer is -I. You got it? Simple, right? Let's go to fourth. How many I squared can we produce to I to the fourth? So we have two sets. So we can rewrite I to the fourth by I squared and then squared. And as what I said, I squared is equal to -1, which is squared. What is -1 times -1? And the answer is 1. Isn't it easy? Yes. So I to the fifth. So we're going to have I to the fifth. We can split I to the fifth, or we can rewrite I to the fifth by I squared and squared. That's 4. And then another I here, or I1. So we all know that I squared squared is already 1. So we may now have 1 times I1 will be I. So that will be an I. Interesting, right? All right, I to the 6. How many I squared can we produce from I to the 6? So you're going to have, I think that's 3, right? So you're going to have I squared times 3 will be 6. So if I squared is equal to -1, so that will be cubed. So -1 times -1 times -1 is equal to -1. So that's the answer. Easy, right? Let's go to 7. How many I squared can be produced from I to the 7? We can rewrite I to the 7 by I squared cubed and then I. So we will have I -1, because I squared is -1. So that will be 3. I. So that will be, this is -1, right? -1 times I is -I. Isn't it easy? Yes, it is, right? What about if it is a bigger number, 19? So same thing, we're gonna split it. I to the like some 9. Oh no, squared. Sorry. I squared times 9 because 9 times 2 is 18. And we're gonna have one I left over. Alright? I squared. I squared is negative 1. So that will be raised to 9. So if it is an odd number, it only means that, let's see here. See, if it's an odd number, it's negative 1. So if it is a, what do you call that? If it is an even number, it will give you positive. So that will be negative 1. So negative 1 times I is negative I. You got it? Oh, wait, why is it the same thing? No, this is positive. Oh, wait, hold on. 9 times 2 is 18. Negative 1 times 9 will be negative 1, negative 18. Yep. All right. Next 20. I to raised to 10. All right. So I squared is negative 1. So raised to the 10th power. This is even number. So that will be 1. All right. So I hope you enjoyed this part. All right, this one. So negative 4i times 7i is the same process that we are doing when we're using pandas. Just multiply it if it is multiplication and if it is addition and so on. So negative 4 times 7 is negative 28. And then I times I is I squared. We can't allow this as your final answer, so you need to extract it. That's what I said. I squared is equal to negative 1. So negative 28 times negative 1 is equal to positive 28. So that's the answer for that specific number. Again, for those who are new in this lesson, you can find these examples on page 11 and 12 on the PDF below. All right, number 3, negative 8 times negative 5 will give you 8. We need to multiply them. What's 8? So that will be, so that's 4 times negative 2. All right, 4. Never mind that. Again, I'm going to rewrite it. So 8, and then negative 1, and then 5, negative 1. All right. Now, what does a square root of negative 1 represents? It is an I. So square root of 8i times square root of 5i. 8 can be factored by square root of 4 and square root of 2. Factor of 4 would be 2 and 2. Cancel, take 1. So that would be 2 square root of 2. And we're going to put the I here. Here, I'll just copy it. Here, we're going to have 5i. So that will be 2i times I will give you 2i squared, square root of 10. And that I squared is negative 1, so the answer is negative 2 square root of 10. Got it? All right. So next will be 8. This is, let's do number 4 first. So let's just multiply them. So 3 times 6 times negative 1. If you want, I will just put it, just write it down. Okay, here, that will be square root of 3 times I. So you can have 3i square root of 6, while I square root of 3. I times I would be 3i squared, square root of 18. 18 is still a perfect square. I mean, a number that can be factored by a perfect square number. So we can have 3i squared is negative 1, so that would be negative 3. I'm sorry, I'm making it too fast. So that would be 9 times 2. 9 can be factored by 3 and 3. Cancel, take 1. 3 times negative 3 is negative 9 square root of 2. That's it. This one is on page 12. So this is quite easy. How many more minutes? Oh, we still have a lot of time. So here, this is addition. So I plus 6i I, we don't have any number here, so it is an imaginary one. So 1 plus 6 is equal to 7i. This time we're not adding the exponent because we are adding those numerical coefficients. So the answer is 7i. What about the number 2? Number 2 says 3 plus 4 plus 6i will be what? Since these are two whole number, we're going to add them, and that will be 7 plus 6i. Now, can you add these two? No, because one is imaginary number and the other one is a whole number, or they are complex number. Complex number, a combination of a real number and an imaginary number. Number 19. Okay, I would suggest you to use a box method because that would be easier for you. Um, I'm sorry if you see a small number or small, font of this number. So that would be 8, negative 6i. This is negative 4, and this negative 4i. So 8 times negative 4 is negative 32. Negative 6 times negative 4 is positive 24i. 8 times negative 4i would be negative 32i. Negative 6 positive would be 24i squared. Is that right? Now combine terms. So we have negative 32, and then this would be negative 24. 32 minus 24, we need to have 32 minus 24 is 8. So you're going to have 8 plus I squared is negative 1. Negative 1 times 24 is negative 24. Got it? So we're going to simplify these two. So negative 32 and negative 24 is equal to negative 56. So the answer is negative 56 minus 8. That's it. I hope you learned something from here. Last one, number. We still have one more. Alright. 8 minus 3i, so still, we need to do box method. So 8 minus 3i, 8 minus 3i. 8 times 8 is 64, negative 24i, negative 24i, and then positive 9i squared. So combine these two, that will be 64 minus 48i plus 9i squared will be minus, right? Again, I squared is negative 1. So that will be negative 9. So 64 minus 9 is 55. So the answer is 55 minus 48. I hope you learned something from this. Comment below if you don't, and I want to give more examples. Bye.